Hello Brick Sculptors and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Chris and today we're going to talk about LEGO part 15706. Wait a minute, we already did this video. Well, this is going to be a follow-up. Now I put a video up about this part last week and it got a ton of attention and so many comments. I gave it kind of a clickbaity title saying I hate this LEGO piece. Sorry for that. But I'm glad I did because I got so many different responses. I got over 200 comments and people telling you all the cool uses for this piece. Now, I'm not going to go back and say I love this LEGO piece, but I will say I've learned a ton about it and I've got a little bit more of an appreciation for it now. Some of the stuff I picked up from you guys, then I kind of implemented that with some of my own ideas and I come up with some really cool stuff and I want to kind of show you some techniques I've learned. Now we're going to be talking about these in a wheel pattern, and I know there's lots of uses for this outside of this wheel pattern, but this octagon to me is what makes sense with this part. And you can also, any of the techniques I show you with this, you can do on a bigger octagon if you want to space these out more. You'll just have to make them larger. But I want to show you some different things. One of my biggest concerns in the video was trying to find the center because it's not an even distance across here. So you need to find a way to get the center of this if you want to use it for a wheel, like a windmill, water wheel, anything like that. The center is going to be crucial. And I would argue even for building on this, it'd be good to have the center because you can build out from the center and have everything symmetrical around the outside. So this one here, I've added some jumpers on here. And I'll show you how I'm going to use those jumpers to get the center of this octagon. First one's pretty simple. I got a Travis brick here with 4 bars in it, and each bar has one of these black clips, and these I can line up right on these jumper plates. And the cool thing about this technique is as long as everything's tight, you automatically have the center because you can't move it side to side, so it can't be off on this axis, and you can't move it on the other axis either, so you know that's gonna be the center. And works really good. Now, obviously, it's not the most cosmetically pleasing for some applications, but that is one way to get the center. Now, also, a lot of the suggestions I got for this use techniques. And I do like Technic stuff, but I don't deal in Technic much. The reason being is most of my building is, I'm trying to be super highly detailed. I do Lego City stuff, as you might know. And Technic stuff offers a lot for play features, but it often doesn't look super realistic. And so I try to avoid Technic when possible. And if I do incorporate, I try to put it in a way that's very well hidden. So an approach like this to me appeals more than a Technic approach. Although I'm going to show you one mild Technic approach that I did, because I think it does look really good. Now another way I could do this, I could do something like this here, where I have a central platform and some jumpers, and same basic concept, but instead of having one central Travis brick, we have kind of a platform here and a little bit more filled out center. Also, where this one only has a space big enough for a bar, this one has a space big enough for a Technic pin or a few different things you could put through there. It's a larger hole. And same concept here, because of these bars can't move in either direction, you know it's centered. So a nice way to kind of fill that gap. Now this one I thought was really cool. This is basically the same build here. I wanted to switch colors because this looks really cool, but I wanted to figure out how to put this piece in the middle. And this is more of a Technic approach. This is a Technic piece. It's got the Technic cross in it. But the way I built this, it doesn't look very Technic. And I do have these Technic pieces here. And I've got these little guys branching out from it. And this spans this really nice. Like this straight up looks like a windmill or a water wheel, just like that. Now it does get quite tall. So something to keep in mind, if you're using this technique, you can put it on the top like this using jumpers, but you can also put it on the underside. And basically I would just need to flip these little 1x1 rounds to the top like this. And then on the underside, without any jumpers, if I put some 2x4 plates on each of these connections, these will line up right into these anti-studs on the bottom. And again, because of the fact that this can't move left, right, or up and down, it's centered. And that's a really cool start, I think, to a water wheel or a paddle boat. That'd be pretty cool, a large river paddle boat type deal. So you could put it on either side. You could put a second one of these over here. You could really make something cool out of that, and you have that central location. Now, these applications I've shown you are definitely more useful for like a rotating wheel scenario, but let's say you were trying to build more of a platform. Let's take a look at a way we could do that a little bit better. So this is the same shape here, connected just end to end in an octagon, and I call this technique the captured cross technique. And the reason being is I can create this central piece like this, where I have tiles coming out from a central point just like this. Now how am I going to keep this in place? It's going to move all over the place. It doesn't connect. The cool thing about this is it's not about how you connect it, it's about how you limit its motion. So the nice thing right here, you have a 2 width and a 2 width, and so this gap in between these two tiles is 2 width. So if I line this up like this, and I take a couple of stacked 2x4 tiles, I can put these in these spaces, drop this in the middle, and it's not about being locked in place, but it's about its limited motion. It can't move in any direction, which means that it's centered. And then I can take some tiles and I can lock it in place. Just like this. And once I've done that, this piece is dead center in this octagon. It has a tiny bit of movement, but really not much. And it's only connected by where it's limited in going. So I really like that technique, especially when you combine it with a floor, which we'll get to in a minute. Just like the other technique I did with the brown wheel here, this can also be done on the underside. So if you are looking to have this lowered, on the underside here, this can float all over the place. But if you build some of these, which is basically just a couple plates and a couple tiles stacked, you can do the same basic thing and stick them in the areas where the cross is not. And again, we have that captured cross technique. Now it's good to mention that if you are doing this, these connection surfaces are going to be kind of out of play. Unless you're really good at figuring this out, which is beyond me, these are not going to line up with each other. So you'll have to build off of this portion here, and on the circumference, build off of these. But it is a good way to lock it in place, and then you can lower that floor. Could build this up too and put my floor right flush to this. So a good way to do that. I want to put it back to the top though. So I want to show you guys something else really cool about this. Now, I thought I had a part for this, and I looked through all my pieces, and I do have just one piece that fits this. Check this out. I don't know where I got this, but this is a octagon. It's not a perfect octagon because these edges are a little bit longer than this, but just barely. And the diameter is 4, 8, 10 by 10. And because of this central location, I can plug this right on here. Now it doesn't look like much yet, and I could lower this if I want to, if I want to build on the underside. But you could build some simple walls like this, where I basically have some snot bricks surrounded by some plates and some double cheese slopes, and then just some tiles here. And if I pop these on these edges, look at that fit up. I mean, there's a tiny gap there, but that would make an awesome tower. And on the outside, a little bit of a gap, but not much. If you were to connect these, not bad at all. And I think that makes for an awesome fit up and very limited gaps. So I think that's a great technique, and I think you could make a really cool tower or a octagonal silo or something out of that. But really cool. I'm really happy with how that measured up like that. And you do have that little bit of movement because that captured cross does have a tiny bit of play in it. But I think it's a great way to add a platform to this octagon. I'll show you a couple more walls you could put on the outside of here, because that was one other thing that I was struggling with, was building on the outside. And I'm still not perfect with these. I'll use this one here to show you these other ones. But a few examples of things you could do to kind of build off the outside of this. These are very similar to what I did over here. You can add different textures and things on the outside, but we're just using some cheese slopes. Now these ones I did build with a snot like bumper piece. And I did that because you can get this gap super tight if you do it that way. Where this one is pretty close, this one is almost non-existent, especially once you actually connect these. Very, very tight gap on the outside. So that turned out really nice. If you want something a little simpler, I liked this technique here. I basically just have a snot brick, 2x4 tile, and then some of these rail pieces. And if you plug these in, they line up pretty nice. Now you're definitely going to have some not super smooth transition here, but maybe you want that. Maybe you want a decorative edge on the outside of whatever you're building. I thought those turned out pretty cool. You could do a similar technique, but with these rounded slopes, and that gives this outer circumference a little bit more of a rounded look. And they line up pretty tight, same as these. You could also do it with plates and jumpers to give it just that half plate sticking out underneath. Like that. And that'll definitely give it a much more hexagonal look. If you're going to make a tower out of this, which is kind of an obvious application for something this shape, you could do something like this, where you have more of a stick up and then gaps in between, like this. That's looking pretty medieval there. You could even take some decorative underneath here. Get snot technique going here. You could fill in this gap underneath, but that's a pretty cool start to a tower right there. I probably wouldn't use the black. I'd probably use the dark gray. But that all the way around, 8 of these lion's heads, that'd be a pretty mean looking tower. So definitely a lot more than I knew about this piece in the past, and I'm so glad I did this video. I really am enjoying this series, and it seems like you guys are too. So I'm going to try and do more stuff like this in the future, where I talk about a part, I get a lot of feedback, and then do a follow-up, because this is what it's all about, is learning new techniques and new ways to use the pieces you already have. And you can never learn enough about this stuff. There's always more to figure out with Lego. So I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, because I'm going to do more just like this in the future, and we will see you next time.